Peace, family. Welcome to another episode, Underground Railroad Productions. It's your host, Brother Rich. As you can see, I'm here with the brother Red Pill at Nicholas in Brooklyn. If you're in Brooklyn, make sure you stop by Nicholas Bookstore for all your cultural needs. We're going to continue the conversation, Red Pill, because it's an important conversation. It's a conversation that is raising a lot of awareness. You know, as in terms of the changing climate of America, we're seeing a lot of celebrities step up and speak out in terms of the injustices going on. You termed the effect. You came up with the term, the Jesse Williams effect. And some people liked it, some people hated it. But we're going to keep on and keep moving on. We always talk about music. People might say, why the hell do they talk about music if they conscious?
Sports, too.
And sports, yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. Shout out to LeBron. But if you're gonna, one of the most spiritual things in the world is music. So for the zealots and the people who are religious and they don't want nothing but descriptions or the Book of the Dead, what we have today that's extremely spiritual is music, whether we like it or not. Something about the drums, something about melody, something about harmony, something about rhyme that just gets to us, gets into our soul. So I want to talk to you about the changing climate as far as the rap music. You know, you just came out with your new rap song, Made for This. I want to talk to you about Meek Mill. He's like one of the top street artists we have in the game.
Yes.
And he recently put out a tweet, and I want to talk to you about it since we're talking about this Jesse Williams effect in which celebrities are stepping up and speaking out against things. So this is Meek Mill's tweet. Once I found out I wasn't born to fail and just fall victim to a fake-ass life that don't offer shit but for jail and death, I carry myself with extreme confidence and I know my value. Even though that's where we come from and all most of us has ever experienced in life, wake up, don't question my raps because it's a life we lived and suffered from. I have a right to express myself. By the way, after Dream Chasers 4, I won't continue to rap about extreme violence, but I will remain to let my people know in these terrible environments to adapt and survive at any cost, because us black people are still at war with ourselves and the system in real life. I don't talk the American English because I don't believe in it. I never cared about writing or speaking that way. I don't dress that way. I'm doing me. Better yet, #us. So, with that being said, Red Pill, I mean, it's strange. One of the most popular rappers to ever live, that mostly everybody respects, Tupac Shakur.
Yeah.
He found a way to mix street culture with activism, with the plight of the people. He spoke to the people. He was a representative of the people.
Facts.
So it's just weird that nobody was able to duplicate that like Pac since when he died, 94?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about 94. It's 2016. That's that's over 20 years later, and we've never had a person duplicated to that effect, or even come close. At least I don't think so. We got a conscious rapper. Some people call them veggie rappers, like Mos Def. But as far as that street element and that conscious element,
prototype,
nah.
Pac represent.
Yeah. We don't see that
perfect juxtaposition of streets and consciousness, which was my art. He hasn't been duplicated, and you haven't seen anybody pick up that mantle. If anybody says Ja Rule, we fighting when I see you.
So the question is, Red, why is that? If everybody loves him, it's not like he was MC Hammer or Vanilla Ice and everybody was shitting on him. Everybody loved him. So why, if the formula is success, why won't somebody emulate the formula of ultimate success, which is Tupac? What's going on there?
Well, emulating Tupac's example, is a risk that a lot of people are not ready to take. 2, have not been properly groomed in order to take. 3, have not fully grasped the extent or the level of his sacrifice, what he meant and what his mission was. Because in order to talk about Tupac Shakur, or Tupac Amaru Shakur for that matter, you have to do the research on his mother, Afeni Shakur, what she meant to the liberation at the whole time put the time reference of what she was doing, what the New York 21 were doing, what they were, what the Panthers overall were doing to affect the plight or affect the upliftment or affect the revolution of their people at that time. And as a result of being birthed from parents who represented, the movement or represented consciousness at that time, with his stepfather Matulu and his mother Afeni, the surrounding that he had. So he was groomed, meaning that he was made for this, meaning that he was, created. His purpose was to be who he was. So a lot of these brothers and sisters that are in the rap game, who are coming into the rap game based on the history that I've done to research who they are, because they have biographies. Now you have Wikipedia. And in other times when you're in the industry, you're privy to certain kind of sensitive information, like people's origin, where they come from and their backstories, who their parents are, lineage, right? Because that's what this is all about, bloodlines. And a lot of people don't come from, any bloodline that's comparative to the bloodline that this man came from, making him not only royalty in the quote-unquote hip-hop arena or in rap, but also in the movement, also in consciousness, and also in, quote-unquote, just the Black Messiah motif or the Black Messiah lineage or that bloodline. You have to do the research on his attribute, Tupac Shakur, who was a South American king who went to war with the conquistadors, who was quartered, eventually murdered and quartered, meaning cut in 4 pieces, tortured, all of these things. But he fell to the sword of the conquistadors, who said that after we slain the last of the Amaru bloodline, meaning the Serpent King, that none will rise again. So when Tupac Amaru Shakur rose up in the East, and then he went and took over the West, and there were so many things in his quote-unquote life that mimic the mythos that many of us are familiar with. He really played that part. He is one of the only rappers that I remember had an actual physical altercation with the police. He did not go on film to apologize. He didn't have a press conference, with the rest of the rappers, where he was trying to stand with the LAPD or with the police and have a truce. He was very militant and very outspoken. The rape case, the case that put, they basically put a knife in his back. And this is how he tells it. He said that he was set up and double crossed, and that basically clipped his wings. And then in some instances, he said it saved his life. But he was staying on that path of being what? A rebel against the establishment. That's the key word for tonight. Being a rebel against an establishment that you were groomed and you were reared to look at like it truly was. The veils were lifted from an early age. He was fully aware of the system. He was born in a jail cell. He was inside of a womb while his mother was in prison, inside of purgatory, like we talked about months ago when we compared being in jail, the closest thing that you can have, or the closest place that you can be, that's closest to the physical death. Even in the jail, even in the hospital room, riddled with bullets on the ICU, you can still get up. It might take you an hour, but you'll be able to go to the bathroom whenever you want. You can have visitors. You can make phone calls. You're able to eat. All of these things, that doesn't compare to being in a state of purgatory. So this is where this man, this flower that grew out of the concrete, right? The papyrus that comes out of the mud. So people don't have it in their genetical makeup. You have to be made for this. This is something that you cannot basically fake. This is not something that you can hashtag. This is not an outfit. Consciousness, being able to stand on the front line when tested, when the quote-unquote beast shows his or her fangs, when you see the devil face to face and you're still able to stand on your square. That, my friends, is something that everybody does not have inside of them. All right. So as we can see in this musical industry, or this hip hop industry for that matter, after the execution or the assassination of Tupac Amaru Shakur, what did the rappers really begin to acquiesce to? They begin to acquiesce to "It's All About the Benjamins." They begin to acquiesce to everything that Tupac was fighting Biggie and Puffy about. Because remember, he was going to war against Puffy as well. And it was he was going to war against the mind state, or he was going to war against the fuckery that he said that they were introducing into the industry. What was materialism? They were introducing the Versace shit. They were introducing, huh? And then Pac said, I introduced Versace, but I did not introduce Versace the way that y'all introducing Versace. I'm a Don. I'm Machiavelli. You understand? With thug life tatted on my belly, I clapped at the pigs. I'm able to sit amongst these Europeans. I'm able to sit amongst all of these people because I know who I am. I'm God. And they treat me as such, meaning that I'm not an angry man when I'm around them. I don't even have to be, you know what I'm saying, on defense, because they understand who I am and they respect that. That's how he moved with it. A lot of people say that he was fake because he was a ballerina before and he was a thespian and all of these other things. All I would tell him is, you obviously have not studied the greats. You obviously have not studied those who came before you, because everybody was quote unquote a Renaissance man. Everybody had multiple things that they've done. Everybody they were talented in multiple fields, such as poetry, such as dance, such as other forms of artistry, okay? And they were also lawyers. Some of them were doctors, and some were even warriors, killers, okay? Soldiers. And then they would come back and resume their quote-unquote talents and skills. So, in a short form, these people, these brothers who are great poets, might I add, but this is the Dead Poet Society. They push a deaf culture. They don't talk about liberation. They don't talk about rebellion. They don't talk about being anti-established. Snoop Doggy Dogg, The Game, many other people who showed up with the LAPD. I've never heard or seen a video or could repeat lyrics that any one of them penned in their poetic minds that had anything to do with banging on the quote-unquote beast, or identifying a beast opposite of brothers and sisters who not only looked and talked like them but wore different colors. I'm red, my brother's blue. How is there a problem in that? When we get together, you see the power in us. It makes purple. So yeah, you got your Crips. Yeah, you got your blood. Y'all both powerful. Y'all both are mighty. Y'all both real like that. But what about when y'all come together and form that purple to bang on the beast that you know exists? Huh? But nobody's lyrics ever reflected it. They had the bald heads. Everybody got tatted up. Niggas are getting tattoos on their eyeballs. That's how far they took mimicking and cloning quote unquote Tupac. They got the bandana, all of these things. They even got they got the cross. They went as far as to mimic it. They got the cross and the Jesus piece to commemorate him and Biggie, but they never picked up the revolutionary mantle. They never picked up the quote unquote hammer. They never picked up thug life for what it was. The hate you gave little ones fucks everyone. That's 2 middle fingers up to these bitch ass niggas that are out here hunting us down, that are out here oppressing us, that are out here utilizing stereotypes against us to justify them killing us. That's what he stood for. That era is coming back. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. He came the closest.
So with that being said, Red, about a year ago you said Meek Mill was the hottest dude out in music. I think we were talking about Bobby Smurda or something.
That's one of the first videos that we did with you.
Yeah. And you said Meek Mill was. This was before the whole Drake beef. And let's keep in mind that what he did was with Drake, with calling him out, is something I would say about 85%, 90% of rappers wouldn't do, because of the level of how hot Drake is, the caliber Drake is. It's like, it's a relationship game in the industry. So for you to call out Drake, you like saying, I don't give a fuck. I'm calling out other niggas, and I'm tired of the, like Meek said, I'm tired of the fuckboy shit. Regardless of whether you think he lost or won, you cannot front on the fact that a lot of people wouldn't have done what he did, as far as just saying there's too much fuckboy shit going on, people ain't writing any lyrics, da-da-da-da. I need to bring it back to this, I need to bring it back to what the intention of rap music was. And with that being said, Red, will the people accept Meek with what he represents, his character, his resume? Would they accept him coming out with some type of, you think, revolutionary talk or some conscious talk, fusing that with street talk? Is that acceptable? Is that something that the people will say, you know what, I could see Meek Mill doing that? Do you see that from a Meek Mill, brother?
I see that with every artist over 12 years old at this point. Right? Keep in mind, Meek Mill always had streams of consciousness. What you just heard Rich read earlier was a stream of consciousness that you've heard on this show on multiple occasions. Okay? I even had a stream of consciousness that was similar to what Meek Mill just said, that he belonged to a quote unquote dead culture that didn't value our life and didn't value our value and didn't value things that would basically keep us in a position where we would elevate as a quote unquote society or a nation or a generation of people. I repeated that. And that hip hop in its current state is basically a deaf culture where they're promoting, right, on a wholesale level, a deaf culture lifestyle, meaning they're promoting a lifestyle where they don't procreate. They're promoting a lifestyle where they're utilizing quote unquote barbiturates and other pharmacopoeia and other things that will basically, it's been proven, because there's a whole line of tombstones of people who have succumbed to quote unquote lean, who have succumbed to quote unquote abominum fluid and other things that people are taking, who have been popping Zans and catching bodies, waking up to bodies. You dig what I'm saying? People have been popping Zans and doing all kind of crazy shit. All of these things, we're saying that there are people who are steering you in a direction that if you don't take the words that they're saying, if you take the words that they're saying literally and you don't take the words and apply alchemy to it and begin to morph it into something that serves your purpose and what it is that you represent, but you may be that large percentage of the youth and the adults and even the goddamn grandparents who are indulged in the quote unquote underworld or quote unquote, that life. You understand? And then you'll take everything that they're saying as a power pack, and then you'll let it charge you up, and you'll go out there and you'll throw a brick, or you'll take a penitentiary chance, meaning that you're putting yourself in line to become enslaved by these slave catchers, 14th Amendment and things of that nature. So all I'm saying is, Meek and anybody else who is speaking to the quote unquote issues of today, who will realize that a lot of the stuff that we were talking about prior to this, we understand that, yeah, it was real. Yeah, we told so many different ways on how to move a brick, so many different ways on how to cook the work, so many different ways on how to make a bird fly and whatnot. 6 million ways to kill a nigga, but we never address how to damn ride on your enemy if your enemy didn't have the same complexion of you. That is a possibility. Many of these brothers been behind the walls before, so you know the reality that exists, not only of the quote-unquote Aryan gangs who have put in a lot of work on legends in the quote-unquote black world, you know what I mean, behind the wall, but also the quote-unquote correctional officers, the COs and whatnot. They give you a really upfront and close and personal glimpse of what the quote unquote KKK or the white supremacists, how they really act when the motherfucking when the doors close. Behind closed doors, you really get to see the fangs come out. So you get a glimpse of the behavior and the mind state and the sociopathic behavior of people who will smile. Because remember, we're dealing with some of the best thespians on the planet. Maybe some of the best actresses and actors ever. They studied Shakespeare from early. Okay? That's who you're dealing with. These are some crafty individuals. So a lot of people are falling for a lot of the spells. A lot of people have been enticed by the quote unquote fiat, and they've signed up into this industry, and they become a part of a cabal, and they become a part of an agenda, and they've become a part of a plan that they were not wise to prior to them being hip by people like a Tariq Nasheed with the Hidden Color series that many of these artists have watched, by a Sonetta who have been putting out so many different streams of consciousness that are reaching all of the corners of the earth and are influencing athletes, actors and actresses, and all of these people are being able to waken up their eyes, by a Brother Rich who have brought hundreds and thousands of hours of information for almost a decade, by the twin pillars, red and blue, who have given people videos, blog talks, lectures, you name it, have been putting in the work for a decade and more, dealing with getting this information out to their people by any means necessary, whether on a shoestring budget or no budget. It doesn't matter, because information, it doesn't need a price tag in order for it. The truth don't need no price to it. The truth don't need no motherfucking, you know what I'm saying? It don't need a layaway. All right, and we give it to you. You embody the truth. So when you show up, the truth shows up. That's how this game works. So all I'm saying is, these people are being influenced. If they're not influenced directly, they're being influenced by the fact that consciousness is in the air. Consciousness has permeated, quote unquote, popular culture. Consciousness has permeated everything. It has permeated the quote unquote underworld. So when you see the consciousness in the streets come together, that's 80s consciousness. That's the golden era. When you see the streets and consciousness comes together, that is an active principle. That's hip and that's hop. Hip is the mind, right? Hip is the knowledge. Hop is the active principle. What do the streets represent? The streets represent the active principle, because the streets get up and get it. The streets will put in that work. The streets don't need to sit around and pontificate their whole life away. They don't got to sit around and bump their gums. There's people who are here who are the quote-unquote intelligentsia. They get you to think. They plant the seeds. And the hop is the one who put their hands in the dirt in order to pull out the seeds and get the fruit. So this is a great time that we're living in. For Meek Mills to wake up like that, he still represents the streets, even though he got taken down by the F-boy. You know what I mean? And I understood what that whole conflict was about. It's a changing of the guards, but he represents an archetype and a prototype of people who represent a certain, it's almost like a dinosaur at this point in the game. But I feel Meek. I hope the streets follow him and they support him. It's time to grow up. It's time to stop killing our people. You a poet. You nice with the words, but you also a spellcaster. So if you talk about all of the ways to kill your own, that's what you will perpetually see. How can you reflect your quote-unquote environment, and you know the power of the pen, and you know the power of your mind and the vision, and you know the power of casting a spell? You're supposed to speak about a time that doesn't exist. You're supposed to paint that picture. I saw Biggie Smalls do it when he terraformed Brooklyn when he came out in 93. Niggas truly went from ashy to classy. I saw him do it with words. Okay, I remember there was a time when nobody had Benzes in the hood. Then Little and Ryan came through off of a jewelry heist with the 600, and then after that, everybody got 600s, because that's Big. He put that seed in our mind. He was able to paint that picture. He was able to paint a vision of what tomorrow is. But I'm giving you an update. That was in '93. That was a long time ago. We've grown up now. So the same way that a Biggie could have come along and did it, we need our artists of today to bring us into a new future, bring us into a utopia, bring us into a better place, utilizing your pen, utilizing your paintbrush, utilizing the word, utilizing that camera. You dig what I'm saying? That's what it is. So Meek Mill, that Jesse Williams effect is real, and it will continue. So him coming out, doing what he does, like I said, family, it don't matter if they'll go to sleep next week. Take care of the power of the now. Take advantage of the now. That's how you get yourself into the future. Stop worrying about a future that you don't know nothing of. Focus on what's taking place now.
Some people feel as though, Red, that they feel what you're saying, but they feel as though, and they understand what happened during the golden era with the street and consciousness merging. And maybe before the golden era, the gods and earths or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I guess that's all the year. But like you said, the changing of the gods with Drake, a lot of people feel as though the alpha male is just like you said, a dinosaur. It's like nobody respects the alpha male now. The alpha male is looked at as, I guess, well, some people might say homophobic, because he might have certain thoughts breed, or he doesn't say certain things, or he doesn't feel certain ways. It's a dying breed, like you said. So what's your take? Talk to me about the alpha male being a dying breed. Is there a new male? Because some people say it's a feminine male. Some sisters say, no, it's not feminine. It's not alpha. It's a little bit in between. just what we want. Niggas was a little bit too masculine when they wanted us in 3/4. And you know what I'm saying? So is both sides wrong, conscious and the non-conscious? Is it a little bit in between, Red? What you think about that?
Oh man. Yeah, that was a good question right there. I mean, let's rewind the tape and let's do it a little. Let's do the history of the alphas. Let's do the alphabet of the alphas and fuck it. The alphas went crazy on each other in the 80s. Back when I was with Dr. Sabies, curing rabies, you know, box Mercedes, a bunch of ladies, chocolate ladies. Hold on. No, the alphas helped start the quote unquote crack wave. The alphas participated in the tunnel era where we exported this lifestyle to Atlanta, where we exported this lifestyle to Miami, where we took this lifestyle and exported it all around the 50. Those were the alphas. The alphas was the brothers who were dying in the 90s. In 1990 specifically was when New York's murder rate was at its highest. You understand? That's when they were going their craziest out here. People talk about, oh, there's things going on in this world, right? I'm like, you obviously never came out the house back in the days. Like, y'all obviously y'all wasn't part of this terror dome. Like, this is nothing compared to what we came out of. You know what I'm saying? That's why I really sometimes feel trapped in this reality that this is a dinosaur era for a lot of us. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's not, this reality is not set up to be friendly or to be conducive or to be accommodating to that energy. But whatever causes pressure and friction or restriction, that usually can empower you. You dig what I'm saying? So it pays to be an alpha, and it pays to be still with that frequency in these days and times, because you truly stand out. You understand? And you truly are one of a kind. You truly are unique against all odds in these days and times. When they took out one of the quote unquote archetypes or prototypes for black alphas, which was Tupac Shakur. And the last man standing in that whole battle or that whole war or ordeal was Sean Puffy Combs, who coined the phrase later on metrosexual. So is that alpha? Huh? That's the shit that got niggas with getting their eyebrows shaped up. That's the shit that got niggas with these lace front Wigingtons. Yeah, that was the metrosexual. Okay? That was an ambiguous term that never existed before. So the alpha male, like a Tupac Amaru Shakur, the quote unquote warrior archetype, right? He would be an Ampu Heru Kuti type. You know what I'm saying? Swinging his sword, he was swinging a flaming sword, wasn't afraid of the retribution. He said bomb first. So he came at them through the flaming sword. He's a Gemini. You know what I mean? So he was busting his gun. Not on Biggie, it was on all of them on the East Coast. Remember that one? Right? So when they suppressed that energy and there was no quote unquote retribution, there was nobody that avenged him, they didn't martyr him, and then they began to incorporate quote unquote replacements and clones. So the introduction of a Ja Rule. No, but first it came the introduction of a Master P, because Master P came on the back of the source cover with the tombstone, and he had an iced out West Side going up. And then the album had Ice Cream Man on that. So he started running with that motif. Then you have the introduction of DMX, who came the closest. But did y'all just see DMX on the Breakfast Club? Okay. So Jesus out, yeah, and he has a lot of demons, and the substance abuse and other things may have compromised both the mental health and the spiritual and the emotional and the physical. So the brother needs the quote unquote, he's going through that dark phase, he's going through his cocoon phase, his chrysalis, and his future, hopefully his future could be as a butterfly when he spreads those wings and comes out of that cocoon. But he's going through that dark phase. But he came close to the quote-unquote Tupac motif. He even had it out with the police. You know what I mean? But intellectually wise, keep in mind, we're talking about the whole complete package. We're not talking about the Attack of the Clones. We're not talking about facsimiles of the original carbon copies. We're not talking about renditions of the greats. We're talking about lineage. We're talking about succession. We're talking about, yo, he's just as great, if not greater than. Identify those people. So if for everyone who studies dynasties, and we study lineage, and we study the Nesut Biddies, and we study the mythos and all of these things, be able to apply it in the now and in the now. And you're afforded, quote unquote, the stars. You're afforded, quote, the entertainment realm. You're afforded that theater in order to, you're even now afforded the conscious community, which is also a part of that, quote unquote, realm. It's mainstream. Okay, so the attack, or rather the quote-unquote changing of the guards, took place when things like Ja Rule being Christian, the next Tupac. No offense to the brother in any way whatsoever. I'm identifying as the observer archetypes, and I'm identifying as the observer, you know what I'm saying, what was taking place. But going back to the whole DMX with the consciousness real quick, because it's about being in the full package. He didn't have the consciousness. Remember, knowledge is power. I don't got no muscles. I don't got that many muscles. You understand? I'm not hopping out of, I didn't hop out of a spaceship on my way here, even though we hopped out of a Richard's spaceship. Shout out to his spaceship. But your real power is right here in your heart. Everything that you came with already. Nothing that you could buy from the Gucci store. Nothing that you could purchase from eBay. Everything that you need is inside of you. So your knowledge is your power.
You came a complete package.
You came a complete package. It's about being able to unwrap that and tap into that. That is the key. How far into your hard drive can you go? Because a lot of people have the perception that it's about the trinkets, that it's about the bank accounts, this is about the money that these people make and how much they're worth on their fiat. And I'm here to tell you that that has nothing to do with your true wealth. Man make the money, money don't make the man. Are you for real? You understand? That's what makes the legend.
We gotta wrap it up. I got one last question real quick, Red, because we gotta pack up. And Nicholas, do you think the death of the alpha male, we're referencing Ja Rule, in terms of the way culture and everybody was moving on the streets, do you think it came when people associated having money with being cool? Because sometimes you had money and you were still a cornball, but it came a time when those that had money, and if you had that 600 Benz or if you had the Bentley, it was like you were automatically cool. You was automatically that nigga. You didn't have to earn stripes. So do you think the factor of, I guess, cream, cashews, everything around me, that started this bitch ass nigga era, or this whatever some people might call it, the death of the alpha male?
Well, what is materialism? Is it masculine or is it a feminine? It's a feminine attribute, right? This is what the teachers have taught us. So man deals more with spiritual realms. When you go back into the quote-unquote golden era of hip-hop in the 80s, it was not a deluge of materialism, although man make the money, money don't make the man, and man make the clothes, and clothes do not make the man. So when Slick Rick put on somebody's fur on I saw the making of Teenage Love video, and I think the director was a woman, and she was like, yeah, he needed a fur, so he just threw on one of the furs that we had, and then he had his trunk jewelry on, and he had the hammer inside of the Fendi or the Louis pouch. You understand? So these are situations of quote-unquote name brand only were an accentuation to the character or the person that you saw in the video, which was Slick Rick. He was the money. He was the man. He was the person who was the one to pay attention to. It didn't matter what he put on. He could have put on burlap. You understand? He could have put on a fucking sheet and he was still Slick Rick. Those chains that they was wearing, the trunk jewelry, that wasn't $100,000. Those were hollow. Okay? When you put them shits on the table, it sounded like a bunch of nickels were dropping. All right? The 4-finger rings, when you go to do downtown, the Russians and all of that, that wasn't even full gold. But these brothers were resonating because they were dealing with knowledge of self. They were emanating that light. They were into their godhood. You understand? And whatever they put on, however they walked, the things that they were saying, their vibrations, the way that they even spoke to the sisters reflected their greatness. So what I'm saying is this: when people begin to reflect on the outer rather than how to cultivate the inner. Remember, I come out of the boosting era. I come out of the low life era. I'm a legend in that era. Me and my brother have a statue somewhere in Brooklyn based on the work that we did in that era. And you know what we took pleasure in? Wearing Ralph Lauren and polo that we were wearing, and nothing was under $100, and none of us paid any money for it. And we took pleasure in that. Our mother never paid a coin for anything that we was wearing. And we took pleasure in that. You would not tell your mother to buy you a teddy bear sweater. You was a lame. If we ever found out that your parents paid full price for any of your clothes, there was going to be a problem in school. And we were going to, not me personally, but that was taboo in the hood. Okay, meaning that we did not take pleasure in buying anything that the Romans had to offer, meaning that we didn't take any pleasure in going to spend any money with any of their establishments. We took pleasure in liberating cotton. We took pleasure in taking the stuff that they were selling at top price that we couldn't afford and making it look better than the Peckerwoods or the Poindexters that was in the Polo Mansion. Okay, so it was about flossing, but on a whole nother level for us. And we were Robin Hood because we were bringing it back to the neighborhood and selling it for half off, so people wouldn't have to go through all of these extreme measures in order to look fly. That was me in my quote unquote pubescent mind. I was damn near 13, 14, and 15 years old. Please don't judge me. What I'm saying is we've grown up now. Now we're quote unquote people who are inspiring other brothers and sisters to create their own becoming moguls and create their own stuff. So you went from taking the clothes to making the clothes. That's called growth and development. That's called being able to look within. If I continue to look outside of self and what everybody else was wearing and what everybody else had and all of these other things, I would not be able to tap into self and to create. I would not be able to activate my DNA and to wake up to who I'm truly am, and just adorn myself with the things that I was adorning myself with from time millennia. This ain't nothing new. You know what I'm saying? This shit is there's nothing new under the sun. So we're just reclaiming our greatness. We're just reclaiming our iconography and our motifs that was taken for us. You understand what I'm saying? So when that era switched over, it was all about the Benjamins. When everybody started wearing, when I would say it like this, when it went from that Islamic influence, that God body, that quote unquote Nubian, that quote unquote, all of those influences, Brand Nubian, Wu-Tang, you know what I'm saying? Big Daddy Kane, they were all telling you peace, God. They were all dealing with knowledge of self. They were all dealing with consciousness, especially street consciousness, where it's at right now. That's where it's at right now. It's called a cycle. Time is centrifugal, so it has come back around. So we here now. I was just sitting with Lord Jamal and Professor Griff. I was in Harlem at 12 years old on the same block that Alpo and them used to do wheelies down my block. I lived on the first floor with my mama. I remember hearing Public Enemy for the first time. It was a life-changing experience. And I'm sitting with Griff. So this has come full circle. So when the streets and consciousness meet, that's when things begin to move. Welcome to this movement. So we here now. So all I'm saying is we have to begin to focus on who you are. You're the man. You are the money. You are the currency. Nothing outside of self. How do you think you pay your bills? Does money hop in your pocket and pay it? Have you left anywhere and somebody say, yo, when you was going, money was here looking for you? Money is an inanimate object. You're the money. You create your bills. It's in your mind. Even if you show up for work and you getting $300,000 a year, you got to do labor, sweat equity in order to get that check. You don't just show up and put your feet up and money just falls in your pocket. While you're at work, you're thinking about the check that's coming at the end of the week, and it better be there. It starts in mind first. All is mental. All is mental. Okay? So you're the money. You are the currency and we are the worth. Your network is your net worth. So the only reason that we're living in poverty, the only reason that we're poor is because we're thinking poor, acting poor, and treating each other very poor. You know what I mean? If I've ever treated anybody poor in my existence, in my lifetime, I apologize. I'll be man enough and say that. And I strive every day for perfection and to do better and to be a better person. You dig what I'm saying? But it's about that spiritual wealth at the end of the day. My spiritual bank account overflow, my cup runneth over when it comes to the deeds and the work of man. That's what you're judged by, and that's your bank account. That's the real wealth. And when it overflows, you'll be able to materialize 10 million just in your thoughts. The link is in the thing. Know the Ledge Facts Initiative crowdfund. I appreciate everybody that supported. I love everybody that supported. Everybody that made for this song. I appreciate that money is going to Rich. It's going to Red. And it's going to my brother Cam Bada that's on the song. You know what I'm saying? Because we're utilizing our network and our platform to do what it is that we have to do. Shout out to Meek Mills. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the 100 celebrities that showed up in Hollywood to talk about consciousness. Shout out to the brothers that have been in Atlanta, T.I., all of the brothers that are marching. Shout out to everybody that is waking up and is teaching our people. We are all at different levels, but we are definitely all in the same fight. We are definitely all in the same struggle. We are definitely all in the same future, because it's not a fight and a struggle. We're striving to get ahead, and the pendulum is swinging. Love and light. Peace.